Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video we're going to have a look at the latest from the live radar, run through the weather warnings. We have another rain warning issued for parts of the southeast tonight, as we are going to see this area of rainfall that is in the channel at the moment slowly spreading overnight, giving about 6 to 12 hours of persistent rainfall. Any ordinary day we wouldn't be expecting a yellow warning from this, but it really is because of the amount of accumulated precipitation we've seen in the past week or so. So nothing significant in itself, but on top of already saturated ground could cause some issues. So have a look at the latest on that weather warning. We'll also have a look at the latest UKV, as it is going to be turning more unsettled over the next few days. We have a couple of days of respite after Storm Babet last week into the weekend, but now things are deteriorating once again. And as we head into the weekend and start of next week, it looks like the jet stream is going to shift slightly further southwards, and it's going to allow low pressure to push in off the Atlantic in a southwesterly direction. So impacting parts of England, Wales and the Republic of Ireland more than Scotland, and it's going to give a lot of heavy rain, gusty winds and generally some quite horrible conditions. And even on the latest UKV we can start to see the first signs of that. We'll be able to have a look at it in a bit more detail on the longer range charts. And of course this is all being caused by a little bit of northern blocking we're seeing over Iceland and Greenland up to Svalbard. Essentially just shifting that jet stream a few hundred miles further southwards. Not only does it shift the areas of rain and low pressures further southwards, but also shifts the colder air. And that will mean that into the longer term, as we head into early November, quite a few of the runs are showing below average upper air temperatures. Again, nothing cold enough to cause anything wintry or anything significantly cold, but definitely would mean there's a bit more of a chill to the air along with all the rain and wind. So do remember, if you enjoy my videos, make sure you like and subscribe, and remember to follow me on Twitter as well, the link's in the description. Now if you start on the live radar, you can see most areas are dry at the moment, apart from South Wales and the southwest of England, where we're seeing some persistent and at times pretty heavy rain, some real quite intense rain there towards the Bournemouth area, and it is going to pivot in more into the southeast corner, including London, Kent, Sussex, Essex, and all these areas are going to be under a yellow warning tonight as this rainfall does move in. It is expected to arrive in the next hour or two. It looks like it's slightly behind schedule, but that warning issued overnight tonight, and again could see a few tens of millimetres in a few places on top of already saturated ground. Of course, we did see heavy rain across northern England and the Midlands over the past day or two. That has now subsided, and if we do have a look at the past 24-hour precipitation, we'll be able to see where the heaviest rain has been in the last 24 hours or so, and you can see that heavy rain across northern England there, some heavy rain across South Wales where we saw a weather warning last night, and we're going to see further heavy rain in the southeast. And if we just have a look at the temperatures, you'll be able to see that we are generally around average blues and yellows on the map. Nothing amazingly cold, apart from a little bit over the hills of Scotland. Most areas, as I said, are average for the time of year. But if you look at the weather warnings, you can see we've got this rain warning issued for the south and southeast, and it started at 6 p.m. this evening, but for most of this weather warning, the rain hasn't actually arrived yet. It has arrived for this far western portion, as saw a lot of heavy rain towards Bournemouth and Southampton, but it will be spreading eastwards. So you can see rain heavy at times, likely to cause some flooding through Tuesday night into Wednesday morning. It's said expiring at 10 a.m. tomorrow. Likely to see 15 to 25 millimetres quite widely, especially in that western portion from the looks of the live radar at the moment. But we could see 50 to 60 millimetres in a few areas across Hampshire, Sussex, Surrey and West Kent. High likelihood, lower end of the impact matrix again. This warning wouldn't normally be issued in standard sort of times, but after the very wet weather we've had recently, it just means that the ground is more saturated and those impacts are enhanced. And you can see it lasts into tomorrow, but no warnings after that. Now, if you look at the latest UKV, you can see that rainfall across northern England today, where we did see warnings issued, but it has fizzled away. And you see that rain moving in through this evening. Again, a little bit behind schedule, but maybe about an hour or so, because it turns quite heavy and persistent around the midnight point across much of southeast England, and really persists all night for fizzling away around the 7 or 8 a.m. point. So hopefully most of the rain does fall while everyone's sleeping, but it could mean when you wake up tomorrow morning there could be quite a lot of water on the roads, generally some quite big puddles and perhaps a few areas of flooding. Into Wednesday, most areas actually quite dry. A few patches of thick cloud and some drizzly rain in northern and east areas, and an approaching weather front in the west, but it looks fairly weak and slow moving. So much of Wednesday, not too bad, and that weather front eventually does push in eastwards, giving some heavier rain in places, but it's a patchy weather front. The biggest introduction it's going to do is westerly flow with a lot of heavy showers coming in behind it. As we head into Thursday, those showers actually get a bit enhanced at times, and some heavy rain in the east, and some more sporadic but heavy rain further westwards and northwards. And Thursday, again, a day of sunshine and showers. Some areas will be fairly decent, might miss out on all the rain. Other areas may get inundated with lots of showers. Into Friday, more heavy showers around, but again, equally, areas staying dry most of the day. And then as we head into the weekend, more heavy showers, and you can see some spiralling of those showers as we are seeing small low pressure systems moving in. And then as we head into Sunday, look what happens. Lots of heavy rain in the south, even a bit of snow across Scotland. And this is because that jet stream is southerly tracking, allowing cold air to filter in from the north and bringing all the heavy rain further southwards. You can see that on the mean sea level pressure here. The low is approaching much further southwards than they generally would on a typical jet stream track. And if we look at the upper air temperatures, cold air is allowed to seep in to the north, cooling things down into the weekend, and eventually will likely bring below average upper air temperatures widely as we progress towards the end of October and start of November. Now, if you look at the max temperature, you can see this afternoon, average really around the low teens to mid-teens. It's going to continue over the next few days. Again, average on Wednesday, 10 to 14 degrees. The same into Thursday. Again, maybe slightly higher in a few spots, 15, 16. Friday, again, the same, sort of 10 to 14, cooler over higher ground. Into Saturday, really pretty stationary, and the same into Sunday. Maybe the south slightly milder with that warm sector associated with that area of low pressure. And of course, Scotland could be cooling down a little bit into Sunday as well. But over the next 4 or 5 days, the temperatures are fairly stationary. And as we'll see at the end of the video, that is what's reflected on the ensembles as well, with the upper air temperatures fairly static, hovering around the average point. But as I said, as we head into early November, quite a few of those ensembles are dipping us below average. So we're seeing that blocking dominate a bit more, and we are seeing the jet stream move even further southwards. Now, if you look at the latest GFS and see what that is showing, you can already see a bit of blocking to our north, but nothing too substantial at this stage. Low pressure comes back in off the Atlantic over the coming days, fairly weak initially, and that's why it's generally showers and no massive areas of rainfall. But you can see as we head into Saturday and Sunday, we could see a low develop on the southern side of this main low pressure system, and that gives that heavy rain in the south. Again, a lot of uncertainty with the exact positioning and timing of that. But you can see generally it is very unsettled, and look, that block towards Greenland and Iceland is a little bit more persistent here into early next week, and that means the wind direction does shift into more of a northerly or easterly. It's not a flat, cold northerly or easterly wind. It's a bit of a flow, generally pushing the air our way. So it's not going to be massively cold, but it will trend colder. As we progress beyond that, that same pattern persists, low pressure coming in off the Atlantic, but still seeing this block to our north, trying to push cooler air out of the Arctic. And all the way into the longer term, we stay very westerly, and eventually that block does break down right in the extended range, but we stay very unsettled. A bit more of an amplified jet here with some mid-Atlantic ridges, keeping us really quite horrible, unsettled. If you look at the accumulated precipitation, just the wall of pink and purples out in the North Atlantic heading our way. Again, we're looking at this pretty much every day. It shows the same thing, keeping us really quite unsettled. Now, if you do run back, you can see that we are going to generally be average to below average in the longer term. Look at all those blues dominating and not really shifting for about a week there. As we head into early November, some yellows approach within weather fronts, warmer sectors, but generally we stay in the blues right into the extended range, where eventually we could see some more larger areas of yellow. So generally below average is looking pretty dominant into the longer term. Now, if you look at the latest GM, you can see, again, low pressure coming in off the Atlantic, a bit of blocking towards Greenland and Iceland, allowing a bit of a northerly flow to come in within the lows. And all the way to day 10, that persists. Look, actually quite a large block towards Greenland. Again, if we were in the middle of winter, we'd be watching this very intensely, as if that high really did get going and we did pull in a proper easterly or northerly, it could go very cold. We could be plunged into the freezer. But being late or October, early November, the biggest thing we're going to see from this is stalling areas of low pressure and generally below average air masses. You can see here we're actually come on the slightly mild side of the block right towards day 10, but you see that cold air is very close by. Look at the temperature deviation. Much colder air is getting pushed out of the Arctic. Just on this latest GM run, the snapshot we get at day 10, we're just in a bit of a milder air mass for the time, but it is a generally colder, more unsettled pattern with that southerly tracking jet stream. Now, if you look at the latest ECMWF, see how that does compare. Again, low pressure coming in off the Atlantic. That low develops through the weekend, could be quite intense. Then we see northerly winds or easterly winds develop into mid next week. And again, a very strong but southerly tracking jet stream. If we do look at those 300 HPA, look at that diving towards Portugal and Spain, trapping this low over the top of us. And you can see at this point we're in a milder air mass, but generally we have been in colder air in and around that period. Lots of blues dominating as we do progress into the longer term. Now, if you finish by looking at the latest ensembles, you see this well reflected, generally average over the next 5 days, and that's why the UKV was showing fairly stationary 2 metre temperatures. Quite a lot of precipitation, keeping us really quite horrible and unsettled, and you can see those upper air temperatures do trend colder into the longer term. Nothing massively cold, we're not really getting much below the -5 line, which would be sort of the threshold for bringing winteriness to the north. Here, we're generally around the 0 degree mark, so cold, but nothing out of the ordinary, just generally below average and very unsettled. But the one thing it will do is really reflecting those 2 metre temperatures. We're going from 13, 14 degrees over the next few days, slowly down to maybe 9 or 10 degrees by early November, as those upper air temperatures slowly drop off. Dew points also slowly cooling from sort of 7 or 8 degrees over the next few days, maybe as high as 9 or 10, down more towards 3, 4, 5 degrees. And this is the same on the ECMWF ensembles. Again, generally unsettled, more around average, dipping more below average in the longer term. Maybe not quite as significantly and as confident as the GFS was, but still very similar trends. Colder and more unsettled. So it's not looking great over the next few days and the next few weeks in general. We're going to see some blocking patterns start to develop to our north, not changing our weather too substantially, but keeping it very unsettled and perhaps shifting more of the unsettled weather further southwards and keeping us fairly cold as well. We'd have, as I said, very keen interest if this were midwinter, but being mid-autumn, it is not going to develop anything majorly cold. It's just going to give pretty miserable, chilly weather over the next couple of weeks. Do need to keep a very close eye on those lows, especially as we head into the weekend and start of next week, as they could be very lively at times. There could be very gusty winds, and again, we'll have a look at those in more detail as we get nearer the time. And there could also be some very heavy rain, and you couldn't even rule out maybe another named storm developing very quickly within that. So we'll keep a very close eye on it. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you have enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you again for another video soon.